What did a teacher do that made you automatically gain respect for them? When I was in the first grade, my mother gave me one of many really awful haircuts. The first day back at school afterward, the kids picked on me horribly. So much that I ran out and hid. The principal found me and we went back to the classroom, and he asked me to wait outside for a minute while he talked to the class. He then walked me to his office and bought me a Coke. The next day, first thing in the morning, we had an assembly with the entire school, and he walked up on stage with his head shaved completely bald and talked about bullying and the like. Some 20 years down the road he had retired, and I ran into him at the local college. Shook his hand and said, "You probably don't remember me, but..." "Yes, I do," he interrupted and said my name, and in the event. The man was and is a hero in my eyes. Mad respect to him. Did he remember you because you still have the same haircut? When I was a kid, we had to purchase these red punch cards to get lunch at school. Unfortunately, we didn't have that much money, so there were times where my punch card would run out and I wasn't able to eat for a while until we got enough money to repurchase another one. Why nobody in my family applied for assistance was beyond me. I had one teacher who noticed I wasn't eating every day, and she would bring an extra sandwich and offer it to me whenever she saw that. I really didn't understand how kind that was when I was a kid, but obviously as an adult that was such an amazing gesture of kindness. In middle school I went through something similar. Would just go to my social studies class instead of the cafeteria for lunch because I never had food. Teacher started leaving a few dollars on my desk and would let me get lunch and eat with her. I ate with her most of my 8th grade year, and I'd always bring her money that I got, like for birthday/holiday, to try to pay her back. She'd just put it in her drawer and give it back to me later. I remember that to this day, and I try to make sure I have change and ones on me at all times for any of my students who need it, as well as keeping my bottom drawer stocked with snacks. My students always know they can count on me for food if they are hungry. Crazy how good deeds pass on to more good deeds. Thank you for helping your students. Thank you, Purple Heart, it's the least I can do. It's how I say thank you to the people that helped me through my rough times and got me where I am now. Paying it forward is how I give back. You're making me cry. Same here. When I was in high school, there was one day I didn't have any lunch. It was purely my fault. We had plenty of food at home and I had money, I had just forgotten to bring both. One of the lunch ladies noticed I didn't have anything to eat, so she bought me a snack from the vending machine and brought it over to me. It was so incredibly kind of her to do that. I hope she's doing well, wherever she is now, heart. That was lovely of her. And what a messed up system that she had to buy something out of a machine, instead of being able to give you a bit of whatever food was likely to be in surplus that day. I presume she was strictly forbidden from doing so, at risk of losing her job. I had a physical education teacher who organized basketball, volleyball, handball and football tournaments, organized Olympic games for the local kids, and taught us dancing on weekends. On his own. Just for us kids, because we lived in a remote place without many activities and things going on. He was more than a simple teacher. I feel like this is the main reason that a lot of teachers in rural areas don't get credit for the amount of work they do outside of the classroom. Up here in Montana, many teachers have been known to actively go out of their way to help the kids, for the kids' benefit, whether it be coaching, tutoring, helping out in general, etc. I know many teachers everywhere do this, but after moving up here, living up here 10 plus years and seeing how much a rural community comes together to showcase the teachers, it made me gain a better appreciation overall. I sincerely wish teachers get more credit, because there are some out there that just make that impact on someone, and I enjoy reading about it. It makes me appreciate several of my past teachers from high school and college immensely more than I once did. Not take my crap. I was a pretty decent writer in school, able to pop stuff out pretty quickly that was superficial but sounded good. The first time I had a teacher hand my work back pointing out that I managed to compellingly fail to say anything was sort of a slap in the face that I didn't realize I needed. Same here, I've been able to bullcrap my way through most English classes, but I'll never forget the professor that told me she knew I could do better and give more than I was. Yeah, the shift from high school to college essays was pretty drastic. I was a little high and mighty at first when I managed to turn in a 7-page paper that was supposed to be 3. I thought it made me seem smart. Professor went, "You said a lot, but you didn't need to." Turn this into a 3-page paper for an A. Learning to be concise was kind of difficult because I ramble a lot anyway, but it was a great lesson. My first paper in grad school, the professor did the same to me. I had gotten all the way through a bachelor's degree on my writing ability. My senior year, last semester, I cranked out 9 20-page assignments, mostly bullcrafting. Then I went to grad school and my first paper was supposed to be a 7-page historiography, basically, an analysis of how historians have interpreted the subject over time, of a specific historical icon. Turned in my paper assuming I'd do well, and then the professor wrote call me, we need to chat on it. He said I didn't really know how to find, interpret, and analyze source material primary or secondary. The next several papers I wrote I worked really closely with him, and he's the one who taught me how to adequately research and make insightful, thoughtful commentary on my sources. Ended up with an A in the class, and his teaching really stuck with me. Wow! This is immensely inspiring. He cared about your learning journey and who you'd become, your potential. That's awesome. A math teacher went to the hospital several times to visit a student who had been seriously injured in an accident. The teacher offered companionship, free tutoring, and genuine encouragement. That's the kind of thing that keeps kids in school. I got tremendously sick in high school, in and out of the hospital, doctor appointments twice a week every week for months, so much blood work, so many tests, and all my teachers abandoned me. Wouldn't get classwork together for me, failed me for tests I couldn't physically take and wouldn't give me take-home tests, set dates for makeup exams that they knew I couldn't physically take either. I wound up dropping out and getting my GED because the alternative was summer school with no guarantee I'd be better in the summer, and nobody gave a F. A teacher who cares enough to make sure a kid doesn't eat crap on their schoolwork when something severe happens to them is so unbelievably critical. I'm glad that kid got one, because I definitely don't think it's the standard. And not even when crap is critical. If they can just tell you're going through some crap, not even physically, it matters so much. I had unchecked depression as a kid till I was 16 and I had a couple of teachers stay late and tell me to come the hell in and get the crap off my chest. Edited to say that I'm sorry those teachers sucked ass. You deserved better. We had a similar incident with a student who got leukemia in shortly before the first year of secondary school, from years 5 end, and she went to teach him multiple times. We called him during class to check up on him and she had us write encouraging messages on his homepage. After he was well enough to come to school during our 7th or 8th year, he was up to speed enough that he was able to take part in our normal classes. I don't ever reply to posts. Just read. With that said, I had a doctor as a kid that visited me in the hospital that was 50 or so miles out of his way when I broke my arm. I was flabbergasted when he walked in the room. We talked for over an hour. I still remember Dr. Adame to this day. He made me feel like more than a patient. That's a big deal. I had a bowel perforation about 8 years ago, and the surgeon that saved my life did any number of great things, helped get my insurance to cover more, waived over $5,000 in co-insurance, visiting me in my GP's office, his wife, and billing it through her to avoid massive out-of-network fees, but the thing that stuck with me the most is when he saw my mom in the ER 3 years later. He was walking through the ER for whatever reason, noticed and immediately recognized my mother, and ran over to check on what he assumed was me. Turns out it was my sister this time around with her own bowel issues, so he looked at her chart, talked her through what they would be doing and why, and then took his leave. Dr. Koda, you are a effing champion and have earned my lifelong friendship and respect. Edit to add, to clarify, Dr. Koda did not falsify any insurance documentation regarding payments. I would see his wife, my GP, for a normal visit with normal copay, and he would then come in after at no charge. He also fought a war with the insurance company to be able to perform my colostomy reversal as a continuation of care. Nothing but love for that man. Dr. Koda sounds like a effing awesome human being. I feel the same way about Dr. Ako and Dr. Wiley who worked on my knee. Dr. Ako saw me twice a day while I was in the hospital, all 45 days of it. Just was checking in on me. When he saw me in the hospital for a follow-up appointment with someone else 18 months later, rushed over to see how I was doing, see if he could help with anything and went way above and beyond in helping me out. I saw a press release about Dr. Ako starting a new practice and I know he'll go far. He was such a great guy who really went out of his way every time I saw him. Junior year of high school, English class. We were discussing a story we had read. One student, let's call him Carl, made a point. The teacher was dismissive and basically said Carl was wrong. The next day, after we took our seats, the teacher said, "Before we begin, I was thinking about what Carl said yesterday. I was wrong to dismiss it so quickly. Let's take a look at that again." He then went on to repeat Carl's point and initiate a conversation with the entire class. After the conversation, it became apparent Carl's point was indeed off base, but I was impressed the teacher publicly owned his mistake and went down the path he should have. Yesterday I said Carl was wrong. He's still wrong, but let's spend the whole day going into extensive detail about just how effing wrong Carl really is. I mean, not in those words, but a good teacher will explain why something is wrong. It's part of teaching. I mean, the teacher was probably thinking about it the whole day, dismissing a student's point in such a bad way, no matter if it was right or wrong. He probably explained why he, the student, was wrong the next day, but it's important to feel heard and acknowledged, especially in those forming years. I mean, to be honest, it's important as an adult too. You want to be a good manager, do the same thing. Don't dismiss someone so quickly or you'll rarely get their input again, and especially when you need it. Talk them through it and they might impress you with something else someday. I could care less if I'm wrong or right, let's just make sure we come up with the right decision whatever it is. Told us a joke about his name, before we could, and allowed us to eat during his classes because kids your age can't help being hungry all the time, as long as we did it quietly. Great guy. His whole attitude made all of us actually pay attention and do our best. Yeah, I had a Mr. Butt substitute our class as a kid and he spent the first 10 minutes allowing us to come up with all sorts of funny jokes about his name to get it out of our system. One of my teachers' name is Mrs. Cocaine, yes, pronounced like the drug, and made the first joke about it. Yes, I still remember the teacher who did this. As long as we didn't make a mess, he let us eat in class and we were all so appreciative. I didn't realize the reason, but it's true, at that age you are just hungry all the time and we had cafeteria lunches that were pretty much just junk food that went right through you. It's really a small thing, but it raised him in our estimation quite a bit. It demonstrated that he understood his audience and wanted what was best for us. That brings respect. He was also an excellent storyteller and had legendary tales of the characters he had grown up with in his working-class neighborhood. These stories were hilarious and such a welcome break from the tedium of high school. He would even do it by request from time to time. Once, I wrote him a personal note asking him to tell one of such stories and he began the next class recounting it. He could not have pulled this off, however, if he did not come across as an excellent teacher who had a sophisticated grasp of his topic. Otherwise, I think we would have just seen him as a fun slacker we could take advantage of. Had teachers who were big eaters too. Most of the students were athletes and also big eaters. I had a friend, Bry, who once came to class and ate an entire roasted chicken. No one noticed until he got up to throw the bones away. We all thought he was just eating a chicken sandwich based in the smell. Back in university, one of my professors was a woman with a last name of Wolf. Since she never bothered to finish her PhD, her official title was Mistress Wolf. For some reason she didn't think it was appropriate. Of course, she was also the one who, when explaining the metric prefixes, said, "The only thing that matters is the size of your unit." Math teacher, I don't care if you have good grades or bad grades, if you work hard, I will work harder to make you pass. He worked hard for me, I passed. English teacher in high school asked where my homework was. Responded I forgot to do it and he said to the rest of the class, "Why can't you guys be like scratch that?" He doesn't come up with some excuse, he just tells me he didn't do it. I had a professor that made it crystal clear that if we ever made an appointment and didn't show up, he'd take 5 points off of our final grade. I tried to find him during office hours and he wasn't available. I told him that I deserved an extra 5 points because he wasn't available when he said he would be, and he gave it to me in the interest of fairness. People who stay true to their teachings are always great, provided that their teachings are moral. People who stay true to their teachings are always great. Sweet. I can do that. Provided that their teachings are moral. Damn it. There's always a catch, isn't there? I had a teacher that if I even came 1 or 2 minutes later she wouldn't let me in the classroom, when she showed about 10 minutes later, so I closed the door and didn't let her in. Guess who failed and got punished? I already told this story once, but we had a great history teacher at school. Whoever arrived late at class had to hold a presentation the next day. If more than one student arrived late, whoever arrived last had to hold the presentation. The same rule applied to the teacher. One morning my first class was cancelled, so I chilled with a friend. We saw 2 other students slowly jog to school, late, and we knew they had history class with this teacher. Suddenly the 2 of them turned around and started to run at full speed. Behind them, also running at full speed in his suit, briefcase in his hand, the teacher. He was fast, but didn't manage to overtake them. I was walking back to class when I was in like 4th grade, and the next door teacher walked slightly past me, exaggerating a speed walk just ahead of me. He looked over his shoulder like he was trying to race, so I started walking faster, and he started walking faster. He ends up doing a kind of jog, so I'm like, oh hell no, and start running. The mother effer starts yelling at me, no running in the halls. So I slowed down a bit, doing this weird half skip half run thingy as he full sprints to the end of the hallway. Holy crap, he pulled rank. This is great. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to be the first to know about Red Rabbit Reader's new videos. If you like our videos, please like them on YouTube and share them with your friends. We welcome your comments below. Press to start another of our videos.